He soars through the air like his airness. He drains buckets with the cold-blooded swag of a young MJ. The Minnesota Timberwolves' Anthony Edwards is making the league sit up and take notice, and drawing inevitable comparisons to Michael Jordan in the process. But are those comparisons fair? Is the Ant-Man truly the second coming, or simply the latest in a long line of players burdened with unrealistic expectations? Let's break it down. But before we continue, we would like you guys to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit that notification bell icon so you do not miss out on any amazing and entertaining content. Alright, let's dive deep into the numbers and see just how closely Anthony Edwards' stats match up with a young Michael Jordan. For Edwards this season, he's putting up 25.9 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per game. Those are stellar all-around numbers for a 22-year-old in just his fourth NBA season. But when you compare them to Jordan's stat line from the 1984 and 85 season when he was also 22 years old, the similarities are jaw-dropping. MJ averaged 28.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 2.4 steals per game that year. The scoring, rebounding, and playmaking numbers are incredibly close. If the regular season numbers have you doing a double take, just wait until you see what Anthony Edwards has been doing in the playoffs so far. In the Timberwolves' first 5 postseason games, he has been putting up superhero numbers: 33.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists. I mean, those are legit numbers on the biggest stage. This level of playoff dominance immediately conjures up images of a young Michael Jordan taking the NBA by storm in the mid-80s. In MJ's first taste of postseason action in 1985 at the tender age of 22, he averaged 29.3 points, 5.8 boards, 8.5 dimes, and 2.8 steals per contest. While the overall sample size is still small for Edwards, the early returns are incredibly promising. He's shown he can consistently produce at a superstar level on the biggest stage, much like a young Michael Jordan did all those years ago. Numbers and stats only tell part of the story when it comes to the similarities between Anthony Edwards and a young Michael Jordan. There's an undeniable aesthetic appeal to Edwards' game that has fans swooning and involuntarily blurting out the next Jordan comparisons. We're talking about those jaw-dropping, gravity-defying dunks that stop you dead in your tracks. The kind where Edwards seems to levitate for a split second before violently flushing it home. The putback slams, the tomahawk jams, the windmill specials, they're all in Edwards' ever-expanding repertoire of aerial assaults. Then there's the sublime footwork, body control, and overall smoothness with which he operates. No wonder NBA legends like Kevin Garnett have come out and said Edwards reminds them of a young 84 Jordan with the way he glides and soars across the hardwood. The comparisons from an aesthetic standpoint are not only apt but almost inescapable when you see Edwards at his high-flying best. And then there's the swagger factor, that supreme confidence bordering on cockiness that Edwards exudes out on the court. The way he'll stare down an opponent after unleashing some vicious dunk or step-back three-pointer in their eye. While the aesthetic similarities are tantalizing, there's perhaps an even more compelling parallel between Edwards and a young MJ: the mentality. By all accounts, Anthony Edwards has an unshakable belief in himself that is extraordinarily rare, even among elite professional athletes. His teammate, Mike Conley, a 16-year veteran in the league, said he's never met a guy or been a teammate with a guy who believes more in himself than Anthony Edwards. That's some incredibly high praise from a consummate professional who's been around the game for nearly 2 decades. You see, having sublime athleticism and finely tuned skills is one thing, but it's that unbreakable self-confidence and alien mentality that truly separates the generational superstars from the rest of the pack. It's what allowed a young Michael Jordan to never shrink from the big moments, to impose his will on any opponent that stood in his way. That bulletproof belief that he was the baddest dude on the planet every single night he laced them up. And from the early returns, it appears Edwards is cut from that same mental cloth. Whether it's taking and making game winners, attacking the rim with reckless abandon, or letting his competitive fire spill over with some celebratory antics, Edwards has that same been there, done that aura. Nothing seems to faze him or make him shrink in the spotlight's glare. Now, let's pump the brakes for a second. We're not saying Edwards is the second coming of Jordan from a mentality standpoint quite yet. After all, MJ's killer instinct, relentless work ethic, and maniacal drive to win at all costs reach levels that may be truly unparalleled in sports history. Those kinds of leadership intangibles took years for Jordan to fully cultivate and master, but the foundational pieces are clearly there with Edwards. The unshakable self-belief, the hunger to be great, the refusal to be overwhelmed by the moment. At just 22 years old, he's further along the mental maturity curve than most phenoms his age. With more experience and growth, that mentality could very well blossom into something even more special in the coming years, cementing yet another fascinating parallel to his rookie campaign. But you know who really thinks there are similarities between Edwards and Jordan? The GOAT himself, Michael Jordan. According to Fox Sports' Chris Broussard, Jordan agreed that there are indeed parallels in their games. If it's good enough for MJ, it's good enough for me. However, while the Michael Jordan comparisons are flattering and highlight just how special a talent Anthony Edwards is, we need to pump the brakes a bit. Edwards himself has stated he wants those Jordan parallels to stop, saying he's the greatest of all time, I can't be compared to him. And you know what? The man has a point. There will simply never be another Michael Jordan. His impact on the game of basketball, as well as his wider influence as a cultural icon and marketing juggernaut, was truly singular and unrepeatable. Jordan didn't just take the game to new heights with his otherworldly talents. He ascended into the stratosphere of global superstardom, usually reserved for entertainers, world leaders, and deities. From his iconic sneaker and apparel line and commercials to his own feature film, Jordan became a genuine phenomenon that transcended the game of basketball itself. He was must-see TV, a human highlight reel with a swaggering confidence and flair for the dramatic that had the entire world transfixed. Fairly or not, the standard he set for athletes becoming international brands unto themselves is likely untouchable. However, that doesn't mean we can't appreciate the similarities between MJ and Edwards, while also getting giddy over the prospect of the Ant-Man developing into the NBA's next truly transcendent superstar in his own unique way. With his breathtaking athleticism, his clutch shot making, his larger-than-life persona and style, Edwards certainly possesses many of the essential ingredients. His social media praise clips and meme-worthy celebrations make him eminently watchable and bankable from an entertainment standpoint. And if he keeps elevating his game on the biggest stages like he's done so far these playoffs, the hype and narratives will only grow larger. At the end of the day though, Anthony Edwards is his own man with his own journey to forge. He's not trying to be the next MJ, nor should he. As the man himself said, I want it to stop. It's just not possible. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Maybe even preferable, because as captivating as it is to watch Jordan soar through the air and dominate the game of basketball in his own inimitable way, there's something equally special and refreshing about watching the next wave of superstars put their own unique stamp on the game we love so much. Edwards understands this. While he may share some similarities in playing style and mentality with a young Jordan, he's determined to chart his own path to greatness as the one and only Ant-Man. It's not about replicating or trying to be the next incarnation of someone else. It's about fully leaning into who he is as a person and a player. So let's appreciate the Jordan similarities, sure, they help provide important context for just how special Edwards' talents are. But let's also savor the chance to witness the rise of a one-of-one talent blazing his own trail to potential greatness. The first few years have been a glimpse into the Ant-Man persona that could soon take over the league spotlight for the next decade plus. So there you have it, the case for and against Anthony Edwards being the next Michael Jordan. The raw numbers and aesthetic similarities are certainly mind-blowing, but we have to be careful about putting that number of pressure and expectations on anyone, let alone a 22-year-old kid just starting to scratch the surface of his immense potential. But enough from me, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you see shades of MJ in Edwards' game, or are the comparisons misguided? I'd love to hear your take. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss out on more NBA analysis and breakdowns.